Hello and welcome to Tall Guy Films. Today we're talking about color grading in my most recent film, Statistics. Alright, so we're going to jump right in and take a look at this grade. So for statistics, it was pretty easy. There was basically only two separate grades that I did. One for the main portion of the film, and then I did a second grade for the sort of flashback sequence. So to start out with, let's take a look at the normal grade that I used throughout most of the shot. So you can see right here, over here on this right hand side, we've got the finished shot with the grade and the aspect ratio applied. And over here in this little kind of smaller area, we've got the original clip, what it looked like originally. So as you can see, there was a really big jump between what the footage I started out with looked like, and then what the final footage looked like. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, I did the grading with Magic Bullet looks because I can work with it straight out of Premiere, but you could achieve basically what I achieved here with something else like, say, DaVinci Resolve or Speed Grade or something like that. But let's go ahead and take a look at Magic Bullet looks. Alright, so here it is. So let's go through what I did tool by tool so you can kind of see how I applied this grade. Alright, so to start out, this is what the clip looked like originally, like I showed you in here. So to start out, I did the saturation, which, as you can see, basically this just desaturates the clip, particularly the greens. If you look down here, look at the red, you can see the red becomes much less vivid, and the blues too. All the colors, but as you can see, I applied about a 71% saturation right here. So if we reset that, that's what it looked like originally, and that's what I did. Alright, so then I did a Colorista 3-way. The Colorista, what I did is basically, as you can see, I put a lot of blues in here, and the blues is kind of for that nostalgic look, and I strengthened that look later on with another tool we're going to look at, but Colorista was basically just getting the beginning of the look going. Next, I applied the curves. With the curves, mainly what I did is I just brought up the highlights, as you can see right here. And mainly I did this just to add some more dynamic range to the shot. It looks pretty flat if you just look at the default shot, but when I apply the curves, as you can see, there's a lot more depth to it, particularly in the background. Next, I added a diffuse filter, and you can't really see the effect of the diffuse filter here, and I'll probably show you a different shot where the effects of the diffusion is more noticeable, but I did apply that as well. Then I applied a blue color filter, and what this does is it even more so strengthens the effect of the blue, and it makes it very blue, but it's actually kind of an overpowering blue at this point. So the last thing I did is I applied a ranged saturation, and what this does is allows you to control the saturation at the different levels. So if you look here, you can see I brought down the shadow saturation to almost black and white, basically, and then I brought down the midtones and the highlights quite a bit too. And this desaturation, as you can see, it looks really blue right here and with the default, but when I add the range saturation, it kind of gives it a more balanced look. So that's pretty much the look for the main part of the film. And again, you can see it right here in the editor, what it looked like with the aspect ratio applied. But let's look at one more clip, because I mentioned the desaturation, you couldn't see very well what it did. But let's go to a different clip so I can kind of show you how it affected that. Alright, so as you can see over here again, on the right we have the finished shot, over here on the left we have what we started with. And this one too, I think some of what I did wasn't so noticeable in the last shot, but here you can see there's a really big difference between what I started with and what I finished with. So let's go ahead and go into here. Alright, so here it is. There's some slight differences in what I did with each of the tools. I modified them slightly for each shot to give more, kind of balance the shots a little more. But most of what I did is more or less the same. So again, I added the hue saturation. Again, I'm mostly bringing down the greens, but I'm kind of desaturating everything right here. Then I added the 3-way, which blues everything. As you can see, that effect is particularly noticeable in the sky and then down here in the shadows. In the curves, again, I'm bringing up the highlights. And then let's skip the diffusion. I'm going to come back to the diffusion. Again, we did the color filter right here, which blued everything even more up to the point where it's kind of disgusting looking. But then I brought down the saturation, which kind of balanced everything out. And as you can see, the sky isn't nearly as blue. It looks, almost cloudy because of how much I desaturated the sky. But now let's look at what the diffusion did. So as you can see, the effect is much more noticeable here. I'm sure if you're watching this, you're familiar with what diffusion does, but if you're not, diffusion basically spreads out the light. So if you look here, you can see particularly up here in the sky, or in this part right here, when I apply the diffusion, that basically softens the light. So all these hard shadows and all these hard lines up here, those kind of fade out. And also too in the sky, you can kind of see a little cloud right there. But when I apply the diffusion, we totally lose that. So basically a diffusion is just to kind of soften everything. But that's basically the look for that. So now let's take a look at the look I developed for the flashback. Alright, so there, as you can see, another shot where there's a really, really big difference between the finished shot and what the shot originally looked like. It's a drastic difference. So again, this is the finished, this is the original shot, which should be pretty obvious. But let's go in and look at what I did. Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. It looked like I hadn't applied the clips, but that was actually because I was using an adjustment layer on this section of the film. But let's go in and let's take a look at what I did. Now for this, I'm gonna hop over here real quick. As you can see, I didn't use looks for this. I used a variety of plugins. Some of these are default plugins, but the Shine and the Colorista are both from Magic Bullet Universe, and they're both free. Colorista is one of the tools. Magic Bullet Looks is made by the same people that made these plugins. So Magic Bullet Looks, I actually used a Colorista plugin within Magic Bullet Looks on my previous clip. But then the Luma Curve is just a default Premiere tool. The Vignette is a tool from Magic. Well, I'm not sure if it's from Red Giant, which is that same company, but I'm not sure which plugin suite it's from. So let's go back over here. Alright, so the first thing I applied is a Shine, and as you can see, the Shine basically just stretches everything out, and I did that to kind of provide like an intensity kind of look, to make it look more like rushed, if that makes any sense. Next I added the Colorista, and as you can see, the Colorista gives it that really, really yellow look, and the yellow look is for, I kind of wanted the yellow color, because yellow we associate with kind of more intense feelings, and also too, I wanted to give it kind of a dreamy look. So the blue I think is a lot more subtle in the rest of the film, but here I wanted to use the yellow really, really powerfully to make it clear that this is a flashback, that this is kind of a dreamy sequence, that this isn't the present. Alright, so then the Luma Curve I did, which you can see blows out everything. The Luma Curve I did to basically add a lot of contrast, and again, it's to get kind of this surreal effect so that you understand that this is a dream sequence, this is looking back, this isn't now. The last thing I applied, which is I think the most subtle, but I think one of the most important, is the Vignette, which Vignette basically darkens the corners and edges of your shot. And the reason I applied the Vignette is because I think the Vignette is something that is typically associated with a dreamy sequence, that when you apply a Vignette, that kind of implies that we're looking into the past. And it's not very noticeable, but I think it does add a lot to the effect. So that is it. The color grading in this film was actually pretty basic, but it's actually pretty cool, and I think it turned out really well. You can watch the film, and I'll make sure to put a link in the description and in the video so you can go watch the film if you haven't seen it. But I think the color grading turned out really well, and that was one of the stronger aspects of this film. So thank you for watching. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If not, feel free to hit the dislike button. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. And if you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button.